Welcome back, folks, to WrestleRant, where I give my in-depth analysis of all the pay-per-views that I watched in the WWE Network. Today I'll be talking about the 2012 installment of Tables, Ladders, and Chairs, otherwise known as TLC. So kicking off the show is a tag team tables match for the winners to be crowned the new number one contenders to the WWE Tag Team titles. It was the Rhodes Scholars versus Rey Mysterio and Sin Cara. I believe it was the Rhodes Scholars who won a Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match or a Triple Threat Tag Team match or something like that in order to face Mysterio and Sin Cara on this show. And these two teams also met in the finals of the Tag Team Tournament going to Hell in a Cell a couple of months earlier. So they had very good chemistry together. I always enjoyed the matches that these two teams had. And I think Cody Rhodes had just returned from surgery or injury, I think it was. He had hurt his shoulder right before Survivor Series. He was back in record time. Within a month, he was back and competing on this show in a tables match, no less, in the best possible way to kick off the show. And of course, the tag team division was flourishing at the time. A lot of awesome teams going through the tag team division. This was no exception. Both the Rhodes Scholars and Sin Cara and Rey Mysterio were both great duos, and they definitely showed that here with their awesome chemistry in the ring. A lot of cool table spots. And like I've said before, tables matches, for me anyway, are really hit or miss. They can either have some really suspenseful spots or they're really stupid. And this was not one of those stupid matches. This was definitely a fun opener to the show and the best way to kick it off. Definitely showcasing the talent that was the tag team division in late 2012. So a lot of great action here. Sin Cara gets fucking launched to the table at ringside to give the Rhodes Scholars the victory, the new number one contenders to the tag team title. So very good match to kick off the show. I thought that was awesome. Very entertaining opener to TLC. So up next for the United States Championship in a rematch from Survivor Series, Cesaro versus R-Truth. Didn't care for the feud the first time around. Did not care for it here whatsoever. The match was okay. I'm not discrediting R-Truth as a bad wrestler. I'm not saying that. As a wrestler, he's fine. Just when he's a babyface, he doesn't do anything for me whatsoever. I've gone on record and said this before, but the only time in history, in WWE history, that R-Truth ever intrigued me was when he was a heel. The only time that he ever piqued my interest was when he was doing that whole heel shtick back in 2011. And after that, when he came back as a babyface, everyone lost interest in the guy, and this was no exception. He was still somewhat of a credible threat to the mid-card titles at the time, and it was kind of after this. I think he got injured on this show. He, split open his knee or something like that. He'd be out of action for the next month or two, I think it was. But fine match. The only real reason why I was, okay with it, I was content, was because Cesaro went over again. But if Cesaro was going to retain the title again, I'm not saying he shouldn't have, but if you're going to have him retain the title again, then why not just move on to something new for Cesaro? Why bother continuing the feud? I think it was R-Truth who gave Cesaro his first singles loss since he won the United States Championship. So why ruin that by resuming the feud for no apparent reason if Cesaro was going to win anyway? So that really made no sense. But like I said before, on the bright side, Cesaro went over, so no complaining there. Up next, we had Kofi Kingston defending his Intercontinental Championship against Wade Barrett. These two had clashed on the opposite teams in the multi-man 5-on-5 traditional Survivor Series tag team match the previous month at Survivor Series, of course. Wade Barrett, for the second consecutive year, pinned Kofi Kingston in that matchup, earning himself a championship match for the Intercontinental title on this show. Very good match between Kofi and I almost said Bad News Barrett. It was still Wade Barrett at the time. Between Kingston and Wade Barrett, they've always had great chemistry. You go back to their matches in early 2011, they were feuding over the IC title. They've feuded a number of times over a number of championships over the years, and this was really no exception. I thought this was a great match from both Kingston and Barrett here. A lot of people I remember at the time when I was watching this, and like I said before, this is a show that I've been watching since 2008, and this was a pay-per-view that I did watch live and really enjoyed it, and I'll get to that towards the end when I give my overall recap. But it wasn't shitty quality like over the internet and live streams and stuff like that. So watching it back in clear HD vision on the WWE Network, I thought was awesome. So definitely different perception on some things, but still though, a lot of people, when I was watching the show the first time around, when it first aired 2 years ago, a lot of people were upset over the fact that Kofi Kingston did not drop the title to Bad News Barrett here. Barrett, I'll just say Barrett instead of Wade, Bad News, whatever, to Barrett, because a lot of people thought he should win that title, and he did. He won it anyway, 8 or so days later. Kofi Kingston, it was weird, because when he won that title in early October of that year, it was on the second episode ever of Main Event. A lot of people thought, oh, this is their time to push him, but they've tried pushing him like that 3 or 4 times before this over the last 5 years, and he never really did anything for the guy, so why should this time be any different? And that was my only real mindset when he won that championship. And he was an okay champion. He defended the title against The Miz, Damian Sandow, Wade Barrett. He wasn't a bad champion by any means, but he only held the title for 2.5, maybe 3 months, and that was about it. And he didn't really do anything all that noteworthy as champion. So I was fine with him prolonging the feud by giving Wade Barrett the loss here. I was fine with that because he'd win it anyway, and he did about 8 or so days later. Maybe, I don't know if it was 8. It might have been, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks later. I know it was on the New Year's Eve edition of Monday Night Raw, which is when he won it. So I had no problem with Kofi Kingston going over here. So up next, we had the match of the night, in my opinion, and a lot of people would agree. The 6-man tables, ladders, and chairs TLC match, the first ever TLC matchup in history that had nothing on the line. No contracts, no championships, no nothing. This was just a straight-up pinfall or submission TLC matchup. And a 6-man at that. We had never seen a 6-man TLC matchup before. I mean, of course we have in the form of the Hardys, the Dudleys, and the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian when the match first started, but never in a 6-man format. That was 2-2-2. This was 3-3. So a little bit different, but aside from the fact this match was fucking awesome, the most noteworthy part about this match was the fact that it was the Shield's debut match in WWE. The original plan, of course, was to do CM Punk versus Ryback in a TLC match for the WWE title. Punk got hurt. They took him off the show. Thankfully, they didn't take the title off of him. They had to keep the title on him to go into the match with Rock at the Royal Rumble, so that was okay. And they would end up doing that match anyway a couple of weeks later on the first Raw of 2013, I think it was. So they would end up doing that anyway, but I could not have been happier that... I'm not going to say that I'm happy that Punk got hurt, but it worked out for the best, absolutely, because if it didn't, we would not have gotten this matchup. So they rushed into the Shield's first match in WWE. There was a small part of me that I thought that Ryback and Team Hell No was going over, because Ryback was the number 1 contender to the title at the time, so why would you make him lose? Could not have been happy when the Shield came out victorious. And I mean, Ryback still looked strong, and he wasn't even the one pinned, so that wasn't even the problem. So I had no problem with that whatsoever. But still, though, I was a little skeptical that they're going to ruin the Shield's momentum. I mean, they had only been in the company for a month, but that really pretty much happened every single time they had a match. Whether it be a TLC, that Elimination Chamber match, not inside the Elimination Chamber, but at the pay-per-view itself, against Cena, Sheamus, and I think it was Orton was the third guy. It was Ryback. I think it was a couple months later in February, and I thought they were going to lose there. They didn't. I thought they would lose at WrestleMania. They didn't. So they kept on booking the Shield strongly, and of course they'd be the best booked trio, or best booked stable, in my opinion, since Evolution, if not even better than them, because the aftermath of those three has been amazing. All three guys have really come out onto their own as singles competitors in recent months. But still, going back to the match, I thought it was an extremely awesome match. By far one of the best. I mean, people will always say that the best TLC matches have never happened at the pay-per-view itself. I disagree, and I point this out as an example. I mean, most of the TLC matches, sure, that have happened at this pay-per-view since 2009 haven't been too great. Like, I wouldn't put Cena and Orton, which I'll get to in my next review. I wouldn't put DX versus Jericho in, like, the top TLC matches of all time. And like, the match itself, not the pay-per-view. But, you look at this matchup, this was easily... I'm not going to say it was the best TLC matchup of all time. I still give that to the first TLC matchup with Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys, and the Dudley Boys. But it's definitely up there. I don't know if it's in top 5, but I would definitely put it up high on the list, because I thought this was a great match. It was a Shield's first ever match in the WWE. All 6 of them shined. Even Ryback, even Daniel Bryan, even Kane. They all held up their own. A lot of 6 spots, a lot of table spots, using the ladder, the chairs, the whole shindig. I thought it was a great match. Team Hell No gets pinned, or Daniel Bryan gets pinned by the Shield. The Shield pick up their first victory in the WWE. In their first ever matchup in the WWE. It's a TLC matchup. So how many teams, how many superstars do you know made their debut in a match such as a TLC matchup? I mean, it's going to go down in the history books as not only one of the best, if not the best match of 2012. I wouldn't say that, but it's definitely up there. But the Shield, one of the best booked factions in years, in decades maybe even, winning their first match in the WWE on this show, making their in-ring debut. So I thought that was amazing. 2 thumbs up for that match, absolutely. So up next, we would have the Divas Championship up for grabs with Eve defending against Naomi of the Funkadactyls. Naomi had won a Santa's Little Helper Battle Royal on the pre-show Battle Royal. So Naomi, I think this might have been her first singles match since coming to the main roster. She had been a part of the Funkadactyls the entire course of 2012. So I think this actually might have been her singles debut in WWE. And I thought this would kind of use as a means going forward, kind of to say, and that I thought they would kind of break her out in singles competition after this, and they never really did that until about 2 years fucking later. It wasn't until this past summer that they finally broke up the Funkadactyls after 2.5 fucking years. But still, though, she had a good showing here. The match was only about 3 minutes long. She's extremely athletic, and she's improved leaps and bounds since then. I'm also very glad to see her finally getting her due and being a part of this storyline with The Miz and Jimmy Uso. She's finally getting more TV time, even if it's not in the Divas Championship picture. But still, though, I thought this was a really good match. For the time that it was allotted, 3 minutes, it really wasn't anything special, but it was a strong showing for Naomi and a kind of a sign of things to come for the former Funkadactyl. So, up next for the World Heavyweight Championship, it was a chairs match of the world title, Big Show and Sheamus. Their matches, I'm not going to say their matches decreased in quality since it started. I thought their Hell in a Cell match at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, not Inside the Cell, for the world title, was the best of their series of matches that year, and probably, in my opinion, one of the best 5 matches of the year. I thought that was tremendous. My opinion, though, I thought that was a great matchup. But still, though, their Survivor Series matchup you knew was going to end in this shitty fashion, so I didn't really have a problem with that, per se. But chairs matches have always been shitty. But this match, going back to 2009, like Batista, Undertaker was dumb. Cena and Barrett made the most of it. 2011, Big Show, Mark Henry was fucking terrible for 5 minutes long. But they made the most of it in this match, and coincidentally enough, it would also involve the Big Show. But still, though, I thought this was a really good match given who was involved between Sheamus and Show. Better than their Survivor Series match, not much better than their Hell in a Cell match. I wouldn't say it was better than that one. But it was still a good to great matchup from Show and Sheamus. They had a lot of cool spots. I think Big Show would use a monster chair in order to take out Sheamus. I think it was Sheamus who brought that into the matchup, but Big Show would use it against him to put out Sheamus with a 1-2-3. Technically a clean victory. He didn't really have to cheat. I guess cheating in the chairs match is like low blows that we've seen as we saw in the 2009 installment, but whatever. I still thought this was a good to great matchup and one of the better matches in the series of matches that these two had in the latter half of 2012. So up next, we had a 6-man tag team match, not TLC rules, but it was The Miz, Alberto Del Rio, and the Brooklyn Brawler, kind of an extremely unlikely alliance, taking on 3MB. So the story behind this was that Miz TV had happened earlier on in the night on the pay-per-view, and I think the guest, I don't remember who the guest was, it might have been 3MB. It looked like it was going to be a dumb segment, and Miz had just turned babyface right before this. So he comes out, he might have gotten attacked, I can't really remember. Ricardo Rodriguez comes out for for some random reason. He gets attacked by 3MB. Del Rio comes out and rivals 3MB, so this was kind of his face turn. So why they would turn the former WWE World Heavyweight Champion not former World Heavyweight Champion at the time, but still. Why they would turn him babyface in a segment that absolutely meant nothing, I have no idea. And they would turn him heel again like the next night or the next week or something when he ran over Santa Claus, some bullshit like that. And I think we all remember that if you saw that show. But still, though, to see Del Rio go babyface, it really got me interested. Like, he's finally going face. Like, that's really interesting because I didn't think he would ever go face, to be honest with you. He was definitely a natural heel, and he always worked better as a heel, but it was really, really obvious by this point in time they weren't doing anything fucking with the guy whatsoever. So why not just turn him babyface? It was kind of like, why not? So good stuff there. I thought it was a fine matchup with Miz, Del Rio, Brooklyn Brawler, and 3MB. And it was Miz and Del Rio. They were looking for a third partner. You thought it'd be Ricardo. It wasn't. So they enlisted the help of the Brooklyn Brawler. And on any other day, it would be pretty random. But it was okay on this show because they were in Brooklyn. I think this was the first wrestling show in the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. So it had some significance behind it. But still, though, fine 6-man tag team match in order to kill time between the World title match and WWE title match. Or not the WWE title match, just the main event in general. There was no WWE title match on the show. But the main event was a ladder match between John Cena and Dolph Ziggler, where Dolph Ziggler's Mr. Money in the Bank briefcase was on the line. So a lot up at stake here for Dolph Ziggler, and I thought it was a great matchup. It essentially turned into a TLC matchup because they use ladders, they use chairs anyway. So if you watch this matchup back and you don't really pay attention to the announcers or whatever, you would assume that this was a TLC match and not a ladder match. But still, though, I thought this was a great showing for Dolph Ziggler. One of, if not the single best matchup in his career, in my opinion anyway. If only because he won. It was a main event of a pay-per-view, which had never really happened. I don't think it had ever happened before for Dolph Ziggler. And then for the match to be up against Cena and for it to, all the stars were aligned that night. For his Money in the Bank briefcase was on the line, who he was facing, when it was on the card, and all this other kind of stuff. And the match quality itself, I thought was awesome. By the end of it, it kind of got overshadowed by the heel turn from AJ Lee and whatever else. But still, though, I thought it was a really, really good matchup. Strong showing from Dolph Ziggler, absolutely, against the face of the company. But great matchup. Like I said before, the end of the matchup came when AJ Lee turned heel on John Cena. They kind of had a thing going for a couple of months with the whole scandal, that whole bullshit thing. She turned heel on John Cena. Didn't technically join Dolph Ziggler. I think it was the next night on Raw that they locked lips, and it kind of cemented their relationship. But still, I thought it was a really good match from John Cena and Dolph Ziggler. Went crazy for the AJ Lee heel turn. She's always worked a lot better as a heel than she ever did a babyface, and that kind of goes to show now. I mean, she's a fine babyface, but she was always an awesome and a better heel, so I was very glad to see her turn on this show in the fashion she did to close this show, and Dolph Ziggler beating the face of the company in the main event of a pay-per-view, and no one can ever take that away from him. So that's great for Dolph Ziggler. Amazing match, one of the best of the year, in my opinion, so really enjoyed it, and a great way to close off the show. So on the whole, I thought this was a spectacular show from start to finish. Not every match was a 5-star classic, but by the end of the show, I was very, very satisfied because there was really nothing to nitpick whatsoever. All the right people went over. Even the matches like Cesaro and Truth and Eve Torres and Naomi, they weren't the best matches, but the right people went over. They weren't bad matches. They were good to decent matches. And then the very, very good matches were what made this an awesome show. The 6-man TLC matchup, for an example, I thought that was amazing. And the main event, too, between Cena and Ziggler, I thought was great as well. Even the Big Show and Sheamus match, I thought was really, really good for what it was and the stipulation that it was in, because chairs and matches usually suck. The opener, I thought, was really good between Rey Mysterio, Sin Cara, and the Rhodes Scholars. We also had the Intercontinental Championship match between Barrett and Kingston, which was also a fun contest. So, absolutely, you should absolutely go out of your way to watch the show on the WWE Network. What I call it, because it's hard to say. I usually say this at the end of my TLC reviews like I did for 2011 and 2010. Would I call this the best TLC pay-per-view of all time? It's really up there with 2010 and 2011. I would probably call this one, if there was any one to go out of your way to see, it'd probably be this one as opposed to 2011 and 2010. I thought those were spectacular events as well. But on the whole, though, I think this one was a better show in it having more memorable matches. I mean, the other one, 2011 had more memorable moments with, like, Zack Ryder winning his first world title or U.S. Championship, and WWE Championship main event, and Daniel Bryan cashing in and winning the World Heavyweight Championship. That had more memorable moments, but this one had more memorable matches with Cena and Ziggler, the TLC matchup, and whatever else. So on the whole, though, 2 thumbs up. Go out of your way to watch it on the WWE Network. And in my next video, I'll be talking about the 2013 installment of Tables, Ladders, and Chairs TLC right here on WrestleRant before we move on to my reviews of Insurrection here on the channel. So with that being said, folks, I always appreciate your viewing. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Graham Jason Matthews, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.